When my wife Shelley and I were first married, we used to trade off doing some of the cooking duties, and we used to cook some of the things that we were raised on, but we cook them for each other. And one time, my wife was preparing a ham to cook for dinner. We didn't know how to cook small meals for two people yet, so she was baking an entire ham. And I noticed that before she put the ham in the roasting pan, she cut the curvy end off of the ham. And then she placed the ham in the middle, right in the middle of the roasting pan. And I asked her, I said, "Hey, why do you cut the end of the ham off?" And she said, "Well, because my mother always cut the end of the ham off when she made ham." And so I didn't think that much of it at the time. But the next time we were over at her parents' house, I was in the kitchen helping my wife's mother do some of the cooking and cleaning because I'm an awesome son-in-law, thank you. And I thought about the ham, and I said, "Hey, Margaret, why do you cut the end of the ham off when you bake a whole ham?" It's just something I was thinking about. And she kind of laughed and said, "Well, that's the way Mother always did it." And because she's from the South, and so she refers to her mother as Mother, not my mother or the mother, but Mother. And I said, "Well, interesting, why did she do it?" And she said, "You know, that's funny. I asked her one time, and she said that when she first started cooking, when she was an adult, she lived in an apartment with a small gas oven, and it could only hold small pans. And so she could only fit in a small roasting pan, and the ham a typical ham, wouldn't fit in the roasting pan. So she cut some of the curvy end off." And I just had to chuckle at that. I said, "Well, why do you keep doing it then if you've got a bigger oven and bigger pans?" And she just laughed and said, "Well, because that's the way Mother always did it, and it turned out fine." Well, I have since cooked hams where I didn't cut off the end, and it tasted the same as it did when I did have the end cut off. The only thing I had was a little more ham. And I'm bringing up this story because teaching is kind of like that sometimes. Sometimes teachers do things in their classroom. They have certain practices that they do because it was the way that it was done to them. And it was probably that way because it was the way their teachers learned how to do it when they were students in school. It's the way it's always been done. Even though things may be unnecessary or maybe not even that effective, it's just you do things the way they were done unto you. Well, one of the real benefits of technology now is that it allows educators, professionals, really professionals in any line of work, to access data, research to inform their practices in ways where access is a lot easier now for teachers. And really one of the values and benefits of the Institute of Education Sciences What Works Clearinghouse is that teachers now can access not just research papers that might support something that they are planning to do in their classroom, but also meta reports where professionals have culled some of the literature and made recommendations for teachers based on a variety of research projects that communicate evidence that certain things work better than other things. So it's a real benefit to educators now to have a resource like that. And I think now more than any time in teaching, it's very, very important for teachers to make educational decisions that are based on evidence, that are based on the results of some good research studies. And I say this because it's easier than ever now for teachers to access teaching resources that they might implement in their classrooms, that might define what they choose to do on any given day with their students. And it's a big question mark as to whether or not those resources really are designed with evidence-based practices in mind. For example, you can go to Pinterest, social media Pinterest, and find access to teacher websites, hundreds of teacher websites where these teachers post lots of resources and inspirational things for other teachers. And yes, you can get some good ideas there, but how sound are they? How effective are they really? Same with Teachers Pay Teachers. It's so easy to access resources on Teachers Pay Teachers now, worksheets or PowerPoints or other things that teachers might use to help guide what they actually do in the classroom, and they may or may not be based on anything that is honestly instructionally sound. And so add that to the mix, add the fact that you can easily access books and other resources from places like Amazon.com, and you have publishers selling you things. And but the question is, how effective are those things? How were they developed? What was the underlying evidence or research to support that these resources are good for a learning environment, are effective and promote what you want to promote? So like I said, the resources at What Works Clearinghouse can be a really valuable starting point for teachers who want to make decisions about what they choose to do in their classroom based on research and based on evidence.